I got a question for everybody here in Washington. Since when are we cowards? Since when do we quit the fight? You know, we see what's happening in our counties. We see what's happening on our school boards. We see what's happening in our legislative session all throughout the state. And I will be honest, as you know, it is extremely discouraging. It is very oppressive. And the response that people have time and time again is to flee the state. But since when is fleeing the correct answer? Since when is fleeing our home? Like, why do we flee? Why do we give up? Why do we abandon one another? People say it's hopeless. It's hopeless. It's hopeless. Washington State is hopeless. It's only without hope when the last person gives up the fight. And as long as there's people like you, and as long as there's people like me that are willing to fight, we have hope. We're seeing bright spots of conservative all up and down the West Coast. We're seeing leaders rise. We're seeing voices rise up. That's why these platforms are so important, like TikTok, Instagram, all these things, because we can spit out information and we can voice hope out to one another. We can encourage one another through these platforms. And yeah, we got to be careful how we talk because of censorship, but it is not too late. It's not too late. We cannot give up the fight. I know it's hard. In Washington State, I'm raising 8 kids. Man, it's expensive. I got to work. My wife's got to work. I got to work side jobs. I get it. But since when do we quit? Since when are we cowards? Since when do we give up the fight? We were born here. We have a responsibility to fight here. We have a responsibility to fight for one another. We have a responsibility to fight for future generations. If we flee, then we're turning our back on the people that have no choice but to stay. We need to stay and fight for one another. Liberal policies stink. They suck, they're ineffective, and they can be defeated. But we need to unite and commit to fighting for one another, fighting for what's right, speaking the truth. The biggest problem in Washington State is conservatives don't show up to vote. Conservatives don't show up to school boards. Conservatives don't show up to community forums. Conservatives sit back and do nothing. Conservatives must be passionate about the fight. And if we're passionate about the fight, we're going to speak up, we're going to give effort, and we will win. The loudest voices right now in Washington State are 16-year-old girls that are calling out governors, calling out OSPI. Bob Ferguson is terrible. OSPI Steve Reichel, or Chris Reichel, whatever his freaking name is, that guy is terrible. We can win because we have the truth. Once the truth spreads, we're going to get the votes. That's when we flip this around. We cannot quit.